So welcome to part 2 of Better Group Decision Making. Today I want to walk through with you the methodology, actually, the Integrative Decision Making or consent-based decision making methodology that I mentioned in the last video. As a quick review, when we're making decisions, we get different levels of speed depending upon who makes the decision, the leader or the worker. Obviously, if they make decisions by themselves, they're going to be faster. If the group has to make a decision, if we have to come together, it's going to be much slower, sometimes much, much slower. But the more engagement, the more participation we have in decision making, the more engagement we're going to get with that decision. And also, if we make decisions together, we tend to get more information fidelity. So to remind us again, we want the leader to make decisions rarely and them to be sort of guardrails focused about what the playing field that we're all playing on. We want the worker to be empowered to make frequent but low risk decisions every day, right? We don't want them checking with us all the time or checking with leadership all the time. But we do occasionally need to come together for these infrequent, high risk decisions. And today I want to talk about how to get there. And if you remember, we talked about consensus being the sort of the common way where we try to get everybody to be a yes, but this leads to surfacing way too much information. It creates bullying and grandstanding as people try to get their way. And often we just sort of kick the can down the road and no is the easiest answer. So today what we're going to discuss is consent-based decision making. This is where we move it to where rather than everyone being a yes, we make it that no one is a no or no one is an objection to the decision. It tends to surface all relevant information. It creates a bias towards action, but it does require brief, intense focus. And we're going to walk through how we create that brief, intense focus as facilitators. Our main mindset as we walk into this is that we are here to mitigate risk, but not eliminate it, right? So we can wear our harness, we can check our harness, we can have good belayers, but we're still going to cross that canyon, right? We want to make sure that it's safe to try, that we don't think we're going to put ourselves at undue risk, but we're not trying to eliminate all risk because we need to embrace some risk if we're going to innovate, if we're going to create better products, if we're going to win in the marketplace and create a better organization, a better world. We really do need to embrace risk. So we're going to bring a group together and we're going to create a decision. First, let's think about the group. We want a group of maybe 5 to 9 people. These are Agile rules for those of you familiar with Agile software development, the 2 pizza rule, right? If you have to when you're buying lunch, if you require more than 2 pizzas, your group is too big. That said, I have done this with as many as I think 25 people in the room, but it does require much tighter, much more careful facilitation. But sometimes you do need the bigger group to embrace the decision, and you do need the bigger group to have all of the information. So sometimes you're going to have to do that. We do want to have a variety of perspectives in the room, which usually means a variety of levels in the organization, people from the front line all the way up to leadership. Also, we can talk about sort of people's identity and different things that make them, give them information or perspective that we might need in order to make the good decision, a good nuanced decision. We also want to make sure that the room represents the right level of authority, right? We don't want to be making decisions that are outside of those guardrails that the leaders have set up. So we want to have the authority to actually make the decision. And we also want to think about the roles of the people that are going to play, right? So as we come into the room, we're all going to play maybe different roles. Most people are going to be on the team. 1 or 2 people are going to be the proposer for this, and one person, usually just one person, is going to be the facilitator for this. Now, the facilitator should not be a team member, should not be a proposer. The facilitator is a separate role, and we'll talk about kind of best practices for proposer in just a moment. The agenda is pretty straightforward. Again, this is the integrative decision making agenda, or we also call it consent-based decision making. You might have heard about it in Holacracy in their governance meetings. And I've also written an article about this that I'll link to here so you can kind of take it with you, but this is that process. So the agenda is 1, we have a proposal where the proposer simply describes the plan and the team takes notes. It's one-way communication. Step 2 is where the team asks clarifying questions to make sure that they understand the proposal. They don't offer any feedback at this point. They simply make sure that they understand like what the proposer meant, what they mean by certain words, because we use different words in different ways. Sometimes we want to know where data comes from, all of those kinds of things. But we just ask clarifying questions to make sure we understand. Next, the team is now doing one way towards the proposer. So it's the team. So that in step 2, the team is asking questions, the proposer's answering them. In step 3, it's the reaction round where the team just like lets loose. I love it. I hate it. Here's what I think would make it better. I'm actually opposed to this decision, and here's why. And in this time, the proposer is taking notes, and they're just saying, okay, they don't have to respond to every single one, but they probably want to take notes of the ones that are the most important. In step 4, the proposer can now amend and clarify their proposal. They just modify and explain. Sometimes they add detail. Sometimes they might even change significant aspects of the proposal based on what they heard in the reaction round. We may even want to pause between reaction round and the amend and clarify. We'll say, look, okay, we're going to pause this meeting now. We're going to come back in 2 days. Give me a chance to amend and clarify. That's okay as well. Finally, we go to the objection round where the team says, is it safe to try or is it not safe to try? And not safe to try means that it's either maybe illegal, immoral, puts the company at undue risk financially, there's too much opportunity cost, there's a variety of reasons, but it's really on the team to prove that it's not safe to try. If they don't prove it's not safe to try, the proposal just kind of goes through, it just kind of passes on through. So yes is kind of the default in this model rather than no being the default, if that makes sense. In consensus, no is the default. In consent, yes is the default. So we have to stop action if we don't want it to move forward. And then finally, we have an integration round where everybody works together to overcome an objection, right? So if there is a material objection, we're like, well, okay, let's ask ourselves, what could make this better? What could make this safe to try? So some best practices on proposal. 1, we want a maximum of 2 people to be the proposer and to make the proposal. 2, the proposal needs to fit into a single slide or a single page. It's okay to have ancillary material, it's okay to have appendices, but really we want it to be concise and to the point. We want it to include why we're doing this, what's the tension, what's the opportunity, how we're going to do it, what needs to be committed to do it, just to give everybody as clear a picture as possible about what the proposal is. We want to speak in the audience's language. We want to anticipate their objections, right? If we're technical people, we don't want to speak all in technical language if our audience is business people or marketing people or whatever, right? We want to speak in the audience languages. We may even like show the proposal ahead of time to a few people to get some feedback as we're developing it before we even walk into the meeting. This kind of helps build some momentum behind it. It also helps us make it better. So we want to anticipate objections before we walk in. But most important, I think, as proposers, we want to stay humble. We want to stay flexible. The prize is getting to a decision. It's not getting my way, it's getting to a decision. It's getting to a solid yes or a solid no and not being in that uncomfortable middle maybe area which consumes so much time and energy and resources of the company and kind of keeps us sort of bottled up, okay? So, and now finally, when we're thinking about facilitation, when I play the role of facilitator, here's some best practices. Here's some things to keep in mind. Now again, the facilitator cannot have a stake in the outcome of the meeting. If I think the meeting should go a certain way, then I'm probably not the best facilitator because I'm going to be subtly pushing things in one direction or the other. I lose my objectivity. I lose my ability to broker kind of the deal between people and different factions. I also want to introduce the process really carefully, actually much more carefully than I have here. I would usually take even more time if it's the first time for people than I have here. But I want to introduce the process carefully. I want to ask for the team's help in preventing crosstalk and going down rabbit holes and say, look, we're going to keep to time. Tight facilitation, it's a real gift. And I want to let them know in advance that I will be tightly facilitating this. I want to watch out for reactions framed as questions, meaning like, don't you think that's a bad idea? Maybe a question, but it's really a reaction. And finally, I want to be okay with failure, but I want to be clear about what the next steps are. We may not get to a decision, but let's get clear about why we didn't get the decision, what the next steps are, and how we're more likely to next time. So that's the process. If you have any questions about it or you think I can help you with it, please reach out. And again, I've written an article about it. You'll see that coming out in the next week or so. And thanks for your time and attention.